Greetings and salutations, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 7 of the Rink Moose Hockey Podcast, proudly brought to you by Tim Hortons this morning from the Toronto studio, live in North York, Ontario, Canada. I am one of your hosts, Nick Costu, along with the pal to my right, Kyle Nice. Kyle, how are you doing this fine, oddly done Sunday morning?
Yeah, you know what? I think I'm doing well. Got a nice coffee in my hand and my nice Yeti mug. And I think we owe the fans and the worldwide Rink Moose listeners.
It's been a while, hasn't it?
It has, yeah. We owe you guys an apology and an explanation. So last time we got together for an episode was just over a month ago. Inexcusable, I know. But you know what? We got caught up so much in the World Junior drama. And then after that was done, we're like, you know what? There's this top prospects game. We want to go to that. So why not just hold out so that we can add everything into one show? So we're like, okay, yeah, I'm sure the gracious Rink Moose viewers won't mind. So here we are. It's a rare setup here today. Instead of doing it with the evening with a beer in our hands, we've replaced it with a coffee.
Yeah.
So it's probably going to be a more laid back, chill Sunday morning, rainy ass vibe Rink Moose show today. So we're going to give you a lot of junior content today. Not gonna lie, most of it was like draft eligible guy focused, and of course there's been tons going on in the NHL as well. So we'll kind of have a bit of everything at the end.
Yeah, I mean we got things going here at 7:30 in the morning, so maybe not as heated takes today, but definitely informative given the prospect situation going on. So without further ado, I think we start off. Chronologically here, it just makes the most sense. I think we just start with the World Juniors, observations, general and specific, teams, players, you name it. Kyle, what did you make of the World Junior Hockey Championships 2020?
I think this was my favorite World Juniors overall for a very long time.
Wow.
Maybe in the last 10 years. Because as you know, I was there right from the beginning, right from camp. I was invested in all the guys. I followed every little bit of content that TSN could pump out for this tournament. And you know what? Every game I watched, I was pleasantly surprised. I saw guys grow from camp where I was like, this team might be in trouble. You know, we watched them against Finland, and I said, where's the offense? Hey, guys, I didn't watch that Russia game where we got pumped. I was at work. That was like the only game I really missed. And so every game I did watch, this team looked almost without a flaw. So I had a great time. I think the first thing I want to touch on, the first player I want to touch on is Barrett Hayton. So this guy had a hell of a roller coaster tournament, probably more eventful than any we've had in the last few years, in fact. First, the helmet thing. So I've always known this guy as just a good character guy, quiet, you know, does his work.
Mr. Dum Dum.
No, I don't know. That's a new thing, actually. That's a new thing. He kind of has this dopey look to him. And the helmet thing transpires after the blowout Russia game. So Barrett Hayton leaves his helmet on during the Russian national anthem, which is it's ironic because it's a classic Russian move. As you know, a couple of years ago, they walked out on the Canadian national anthem.
Or throwing the medal into the stands.
Throwing the medal. So this was like, I don't know if I like this guy. He says it was a mistake. He says he forgot. But how many times has he done this?
How do you forget to take your helmet off when all the 20 other guys have done it?
Yeah, and you've done this a million times. There's no way you forgot. You were upset and you were bitter and salty. So I was like, I don't know about this guy. And then, you know, he continues to have a great tournament, and then we have the injury. He goes down hard, I think, in the semis there, and we're all thinking, oh, this guy's done. We've got probably a shoulder separation. We're having Lafreniere flashbacks, and then he makes it out to the finals. And you know what? In the warm-ups, he was gingerly shooting. We're like, okay, he's gonna play, but he can't shoot. Probably can't battle along the boards. And we saw that a little bit, the beginning portion of the game, especially in the first. He was hesitant to make contact. He had an amazing game. Unbelievable game. He scored the tying goal, which was a laser shot from the right circle. That was my favorite goal of 2019, of the entire year 2019. That. I know it was in 2020, but that got me right out of my seat. I was at Real Sports Bar and Grill. The place erupted. I was lifting people in the air. It was fantastic. That was my favorite goal. And the fact that he came back, he probably got shot up and all that kind of stuff. He was worthy of the C on his jersey, even though earlier in the tournament, I might have wanted to strip it from him. So I got to tip my hat to this guy.
So if I may interject briefly, that moment, that shot in your head of him lifting his arms, trying to celebrate, but his shoulder hurts so much, you can almost tell it's painful, or he's using all the strength left in his will to raise his arms to cheer in some manner. Where does that image stand in the World Junior pantheon of moments?
Easily top 5. If I thought more about it, you might have a conversation for top 3. Like that look on his face, it would bring back emotion, I think, for the years to come. Yeah. And then just knowing, because you kind of knew, you felt that we deserved goals in that game, and he finally delivered that tying goal, and then you just, at that point, you knew, okay, I think we have this. And it was,
and the way he ripped that shot almost looked like he put all of his will into it. Like he put his full body into that shot and just wristed it right into the top corner, the perfect spot. Yeah. Yeah. No, I was more, I mean, I was more just shocked. Like I thought the Russians had it at 3-1. And then obviously there's the turnaround goal shortly thereafter, which I think is just as important as the Hayden goal, to be honest. Because if that doesn't happen, then maybe they don't have the same fire. Yeah. I mean, the one image in my mind is when they go down 3-1, you can see laughs on the ice for the goal against. And you see his reaction, and he's pissed. He's furious. I'd never seen him like that. And at that point, I said, this game's over. But the quick goal, I believe it was McMichael. It was like off a skate or something.
Yeah, the weird one. Yeah.
That turned the game in my mind. That was the TSN turning point, and then the power play, of course, with Hayden. So what happened after that, Kyle?
After that, are you talking about the penalty drama?
Well, there was another goal scored.
Oh, right. The Akil.
It's been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, we'll get into the penalty stuff later, but did this guy ever fucking deserve this? Because he had a couple of really warrior-type shifts, some amazing blocks, the kind of blocks where I run out and buy his jersey, like I did for Jonathan Taves in 2014. Really, really great kid. He had sheltered minutes all tournament, and he just turns on the jets, does a little toey, and tucks it in on the backhand while falling. It was a sight to behold. That takes a lot
of skill. Not a lot of time and space there.
At full clip, too.
Like, he was.
The goalie's probably seeing like a deer in the headlights. That must have been terrifying.
It was as if everyone had been playing hard that whole third period, and this guy, it was like his first shift of the period, and he just happened to have way more energy than everybody else. And just full marks to Hunter for getting him out there, utilizing him. And that image of Raph Lavoie, he's the first guy to come over to him because Raph Lavoie is in front of the net. He tries to hug Akil, and Akil just moves away and he shuffles into the corner. Yeah, no love for Raph Lavoie.
Oh, we all wanted Raph to have a fucking breakout moment, but it's still.
I don't know if he registered a point.
We're still waiting. I think he did. He must have had a phantom assist that they just gave him out of pity.
He'll take it.
But yeah, Akil, man, like no one. Scarcely does someone deserve it more than this guy. Really good kid. He's paid his dues. He was 20 at the time, so he was probably the oldest player in the tournament. And man, he's feeling the love back home. You saw some of those reactions from his fans and his friends. So yeah, good for him.
It's fun seeing him just by himself in November, like just an odd night in November playing in Kingston. Thinking he's a good player, but not that he's going to be the hero of this year's World Juniors.
Right.
And then he ends up being the hero. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's one of those, like, this tournament can have those Tyler Steenbergen stories where a player can just be a hero with just that one goal, which is fantastic. Quickly back on Barrett Hayton.
But which one sticks in your mind of the two moments? Like what moment?
The Hayton goal. For sure.
When you think 2020 World Juniors, that's the goal you think of.
Over
you don't think of
the
Akil
Thomas, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it just is.
Okay.
For me, that was was kind of when we won the game, and Thomas was just the decisive jab, the decisive blow.
Okay.
But quickly, Lafreniere did get player of the tournament for Canada. I do believe it should have been Hayton, and I'm a huge Lafreniere fan.
Even though, I mean, how many games did Hayden miss? None.
None.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I just thought he was. I mean, the finals did it for me. He was super clutch when he needed. Laf was good in the finals, but he wasn't that go-to.
He wasn't the game breaker.
No, exactly. And I think they were close heading into that game, and I think that was just the thing that did it. But one more quick thing on a player who really got me super excited was Dylan Cousins. I think we had some moments together.
The workman from Whitehorse.
Exactly. We had some moments watching together where we looked at each other. We were like, whoa, that is scary. So there's a spark to this kid when he is confident and he's on his horse. He could be a scary powerful guy.
Yeah,
he's just a beast of it. And you know what, he's got some filling out to do. You look at he's got a small frame to him, but he got immensely better as the tournament went on. I didn't like his camp. I didn't like him too much earlier in the tournament, but in the latter games, boy, this guy was a top 3 player on the team.
He had the best acceleration on the team in terms of just going from standstill to skating. He was the best player on the team in my mind.
He was
best acceleration.
He looked like I wanted Byfield to look like. You know, he kind of fit the bill that everyone says what Byfield should be, like this guy who can skate really well, use his size, and still has the hands. But you want to get to Byfield now then? Actually, you know what? Later we'll get to him. I plan for him.
Keep
later.
going with your pros.
Yeah. So obviously, let's do Lafreniere. Let me ask you this: when was the last time we've seen a draft eligible player this dominant in a World Juniors?
I mean, I wouldn't know because I in the past I haven't really kept track of who's draft eligible, who's not.
Let me give you some numbers.
Okay.
So McDavid in his draft year, 8 points in 7 games. Matthews isn't in his draft year, 11 points in 7 games. Eichel, 4 points in 5 games. Nico Hischier, 7 in 5. Probably Taylor Hall with 12 points in 6 is the only player of those guys to match Lafreniere's 2 points a game. He had 10 points in 5 games.
I don't remember because a lot of those are, I mean, they're pretty ways back if you ask me. But the McDavid I remember pretty well. I remember McDavid was good. I just remember the team around him being very deep, and so he didn't need to be the best.
Right.
You know, I remember the Domi Duclair line was kind of the star of that show. And to me, if this team didn't have Laff, I mean, they would have struggled. I mean, you had that second line, Cousins, and it did his part. But the fact Byfield didn't show up, which we'll get to shortly, the fact Dudas was used more of like a checking line with Dellandrea and Akil Thomas for most of the tournament. I mean, for the most part, this was a 2-line offensive power juggernaut and then 2 checking lines to keep the other team in check. And it worked great, but the point is, if you don't have Laff, then you might struggle a little bit. And I guess we saw that when he got injured temporarily.
Yeah, I think it's totally fair to say that I'd say most of the offense, when it was structured and drawn out, ran through Laff. On the power play 100% ran through. He had the puck on his stick more than any other player on this team. My point there was, since 2010, I mean, this guy could be excellent. This guy could be better than I ever. He had a performance. I never thought he could be this good in this tournament. I thought he'd have a pretty decent tournament, but I didn't think he'd be this good. So, needless to say, before we even get into Byfield, the 1-2 talks have ceased.
Yep,
they're done.
Yep,
they're put to bed. There's some credible guys out there who I will not name for their sake, who actually had Byfield ahead of Laff pre-tournament. needless to say, those guys have changed their minds a bit.
It's now back to the McDavid draft. That's the feeling I have. It's who's going to get the number one lottery ball, who's going to get the number one pick. That's all that's relevant. And then the console. It's like Eichel. Eichel was never going to be better than McDavid, but he was a solid consolation prize.
Yeah.
Whereas in this case, whoever's going 2 is a solid consolation prize, but he's well behind this number one pick, which is the one you want.
Yes. Drysdale had since he had a sheltered role, every time he was out there, I thought he looked great. I thought he looked fine. In the semifinals, when Bowen Byram happened to be sick,
flu.
The hell is that all about?
Yeah, came out of nowhere.
Kind of weird. But when Drysdale took his spot, he was legitimately one of the best defensemen on the team.
He must have played 20 minutes that game.
And we've already talked about how rare it is for a draft-eligible D to make Team Canada, and he shined in that
impact,
game.
Yeah.
And I was like, this guy is going to be a steal in the top 5. Like, he showed me so much. His skating is incredible. He's a bit small. You saw him at the top prospects game. He's a slight man.
Yeah.
I don't know what his height and weight are, but this is a little boy we're talking about.
He is. Quinn Hughes.
He's not going to make the NHL next year. I think that's safe. That's a good. He needs another year to grow, But absolute slam dunk for me in the top 5. This guy can't go wrong. I think we've got a guy who skates better than Byram did in his draft year. Perhaps not quite the top end of Makar, but he's in that echelon, which is like, how could you not want that kind of guy?
From what I recall Pierre saying, the clip I showed you is he doesn't have the first stride of like a Makar. He doesn't have the shot, but he's got the hockey sense. The hockey sense is there. And when I saw him, and we'll get into this later in the show at the top prospects game, he doesn't make mistakes.
No,
it's like he's from a young age. It's been drilled into him which plays to make, which not to make, and he really doesn't make a stupid play despite the size. I almost wish I have a chance to watch Quinn Hughes play in Vancouver a little more than I do, because I feel like just the build is so similar.
Yeah.
And from what I hear, the play style must be pretty similar. Like, I don't watch a lot of Quinn, but it seems like a pretty good comparison.
I think so, yeah. I think that'd be spot on.
Right? Quinn doesn't rip up the puck. He doesn't he doesn't have a shot, but he's always making great plays. He's an amazing skater. It sounds like Quinn Hughes.
Yeah.
You want Quinn Hughes? You draft Jamie Drysdale.
Yep. And he's when he does score, it's because he's using his brain and his skill to get it to the net, which is, and he's a right-handed defenseman. Like, what team doesn't want that?
Yeah, rare.
I could see him in a lot of different places going there. Why don't we talk about a little bit of negatives if you're...
So no more done with the positive shoutouts?
Oh, who do you got?
Aiden Dudas, I think, deserves a shutout.
Yeah.
I mean, he among the preseason games, he was the big standout.
Yep.
Because the skilled guys hadn't quite got their chemistry together. In the final, he was huge. In that first period, he was blocking shots left, right, and center.
Yeah.
Just brought a lot of character. This was a guy, Kyle wasn't sure about his role going in. Kyle thought he may have been scratched. He may not even make the team. I didn't know the guy. I didn't know who he was alluding to. And then shortly thereafter, I watched the preseason games, and I was really impressed. I find out he's an LA Kings 4th-round pick, and I got very impressed. For me, the Kings prospects, between him and then Thomas being the star at the end, that was just such a great thing to see. And then, of course, we'll have a bit of time for the other players in the tournament, like Fagemo, who led the league in scoring. Led the tournament in scoring. That was pretty impressive. Again, Kings prospect. So, I was very impressed with him. Joel Hofer, good for him to step in. The goaltending was kind of in shambles at first. We didn't know who was going to take the reins. Kyle's guy, Nico Dawes, dropped the ball.
Well, that's not his fault. Everyone was shit against Russia.
He dropped the ball.
Unlucky that he got shelled against Russia.
It'll be interesting to see how that affects his draft status, him being the one goalie who was a draft eligible going into this tournament.
He's been dropping.
He is, yeah. And he didn't even play at the game. He must have had the flu.
His save percentage has plummeted and he's injured.
Yeah, it's not a good look. And so it's kind of trending in the wrong direction here, but we like the guy. We like the character. We like the guy who used to be a chubster who just ate Smarties, and we're gonna give him some love. So, it was nice to see Hofer step in. That's a lot that's a lot harder than it appears to be. Like for a goalie just to come in midway and just to kind of assert himself, it's hard to get in a groove. And I thought there were key saves he made in the Russia game. Like he wasn't the goalie who was peppered with 40 shots every game. He was the goalie who may have only had to save 18 of 20, 19 of 22, but he made key saves at key times. And I think any goalie for Team Canada ever needs to be good at just making key saves, not quantity, but just quality saves, and I think he did it very well.
Yeah, well said. We've got to tip our caps to the Hunters here for the Dudas thing.
Right.
The guy was injured; he didn't even have a tryout, but they knew for a fact he would be a role player that could really do his job well. And boy, did he do that! He was like that. He had Gallagher type energy, and he brought a little bit of skill. He brought a little bit of everything. Him and Thomas. And tip your hat to the Kings too. Him and Thomas, character through the roof, work ethic, and they brought the Canadian game to this team. It was great to see, and you need guys like that to win. So if they end up being roster players for LA, which I think they have got a good chance, and you look at LA has the best prospect pool likely of any NHL team.
Well, they did the rank. All the pros on The Athletic did the ranking over the summer, and at that time they were about 4th. And so they're just doing the re-rankings now. I have a feeling they're going to be higher.
Yeah,
definitely top 3.
Yeah, and then that's arguable. We had some of their guys like Turcotte who didn't have a great tournament. Actually, the Americans were kind of a fucking mess the whole time, anyways. Mostly because of that whole TikTok drama. I think, but what a horrible tournament for Cole Caulfield. That was funny. It had the Montreal fans with all their panties up in a bunch. That was hilarious to follow, and just disappointing from them. But one more guy we should talk about, and it's a good transition player because we saw him both at the top prospects game and the World Juniors. Quinton Byfield.
Oh, hold on, you're getting to negatives.
Yes.
One more positive. You mentioned coaching staff.
Yeah,
I think this tournament cements you got to stop the criticism with Mark Hunter. I think he made key coaching moves, like just putting on Akil Thomas out of nowhere. Yeah. That's all him. Yeah. I mean, like little things like that, making in-game adjustments. I just love seeing that. I don't like the coach who just stands pat, crosses his fingers, and hopes things click. This guy saw something, quickly made the moves, and adjusted, and I love seeing that. And then, of course, have to give a shout out to my MVP, Andre Tourigny, the man who caught the puck.
Oh, shit! How did we forget this? How did I forget this?
In the USA Canada game, because it was the first game of the tournament. At this point, it's like a month ago.
Yeah.
And anyways, it was a moment I'd never seen in sports, in the game of hockey, where the team Canada. I mean, what was it? Team Canada flicks the puck out of their zone. Instead of it going into the stands and being a penalty, the assistant coach reaches out his arm, catches the puck, and shows the referees, "Listen, I have the puck. You can't call a penalty because it's in the bench." It was a beautiful moment. I'd never seen anything like it, and personally, it was probably my moment of the tournament. I'm going to remember that.
Wow.
I'm going to remember the goals. I'm going to remember Akil and Barrett Hayden, but I'm not going to forget that. That's such a unique circumstance, and it changed the game. If USA gets the penalty or Canada gets the penalty, it's a 1-goal game. US might tie it up.
Yeah.
And if the US win that game, how does that change their trajectory, right?
Yeah, big time.
That changes everything. Canada doesn't finish first in their group. Canada has to play a tougher opponent. Without Alexis Lafreniere, are they even in the finals? I don't know.
And we'd be remiss to not mention the TSN camera thing, the debacle there, with the Canadians in a similar way clearing the puck out of the zone, hitting the TSN camera, shipped from all the way in Toronto, from Scarborough, Ontario, and not having a penalty for it. Now, they went back in the rule book, and people were up in arms about this. The initial thought was,
for sure, penalty.
Obviously a penalty. You can't just, the camera's not in play, but there is a little tidbit in the rule book where anything structural attached to the glass is actually in play.
Yeah.
So it was a crazy moment. The refs made, it's still debatable, but I think they made the right call looking at that rule book.
You're right.
that being the case, what a fucking crazy circumstance.
Like the dum-dums like Ferraro was like, that should have been a penalty. That's unacceptable.
I know.
But then Gord Miller's, the more eloquent, well-spoken guys were like, well, actually, there's this rule thing in the rule book there's a structural adjustment thing. And
Classic.
I was like, oh, there you go.
Classic.
And so Gord got it nail on the head, and apparently the refs went right by the rule book. So kudos to them. And I'm glad they got the call right. It was a bit of a delay, but I think they made the right call. And I'm not just saying that as a Canadian. I'm just you gotta play by the rules. You gotta be like an umpire. You gotta call it as it is. And in that case, I think the refs did a good job.
Yeah. Any more positives for you for the?
I think I'm done.
Okay. On to negatives.
The fun part.
On to negatives. Yeah. I don't have too many negatives. First thing I want to just quickly glance over, the refereeing was a little bit of a fucking mess for this tournament, especially in the finals. Don't want to get too much into that.
And the worst part of it, any penalty that was called, you had to listen to that duck music from the cartoons.
So
I love that music.
Oh, that was awful. So not only do you have so many penalties, but you have to listen to that shite every fucking time.
I love those Czechs. Their sense of humor is fantastic.
They're all drunk and dancing to the penalty.
Oh, it's so good. And as a player, you must be just infuriated.
Ray was infuriated.
Yeah, Ray was
infuriated. Was like, oh, God, I hate that song.
Yeah, it was good. It was good.
Oh, okay. Why don't we talk about Quinton Byfield?
Yes.
I thought he was great at the World Junior Camp. But slowly but surely, as the game started to speed up, it got too fast for his little brain. No, I'm kidding, guys. I'm just joking. I'm just joking. Yeah. The game got a little fast for him. There were moments here and there where he'd use his physical tools to show a flash of dominance, but his brain was simply not up to speed.
Yeah,
Nick, it wasn't up to speed. Okay. So, and as the big games went on, we kept shaking our heads like, what's this guy doing? And yes, guys, Nathan McKinnon was using a similar role when he was draft eligible, and and he was similarly young as well. We know Quinton Byfield's 17, but he was similarly young, and he didn't look this. How do I say this? Immature, yeah, and especially from the mental side of things. And in the top prospects game, we saw the same thing. When the pace went up, he looked outmatched. He definitely didn't look like a slam dunk stud. It just looked like, yes, this guy's got physical tools. He's got great movement. He's got great hands. He's got that spider aspect to him. But man, when it comes to making small, adept little plays in small areas, like Ray likes to mention. We didn't see it. We haven't seen it for the main games of the tournament. We didn't see it at the top prospects game. And then the next question, which is the goofy interviews, the character questions are certainly alive. Like that. That's not. I don't think that is nothing. All in all, let me wrap this up to say there's an element of risk with this player that no one is talking about.
He might be. I was just going to say he might be the most interesting prospect.
He is most interesting. Yeah, like he has now become a volatile rock. You know, like this guy could blow up in our face.
I love it.
It's painful because people were talking about Lafreniere being a more risky pick. They're like, oh, is this guy just all flash in the pan? Can't miss with Byfield, 6'4", can move. There's no missing. Well, fuck, guys. Like, I'm telling you, no one talks about this, but there is a risk with this guy. He's kind of a goofy kid. I don't want to give you guys examples, but little things here and there. And when the game has gotten fast, he has not been able to keep up. So I'm wondering if this is a guy who relies too heavily on his physical tools and his physical dominance.
But he does. But that's the sad thing. When I see him, I don't. When like Masters would interview and be like, "Hey, what do you think of Laugh's physicality?" And be like, "Oh, I think it's fantastic, and I can do it too." And then the whole tournament, and then he doesn't lay a hit the whole tournament. False promises. That's what he gave me.
It's disappointing because you want him to be like, why can't he lay someone out? And we've seen him try. we've seen him try, and it hasn't worked out for him. And then he just goes back to being his old self. But you know what? It's hard to say it, but the more I watch him, the more I don't favor him as a guy I'd want. And this is supposed to be the top center of the draft. So guys like Stützle and Rossi, all of a sudden they become a little bit more enticing in that range.
Yeah. It's exciting because it's definitely more of a toss-up now for 2. You see that in someone like Craig Button's rankings, his Craig list, where you've got now a tie for second, a Stützle and a Byfield, and I think that's a good segue, just to get into our international prospects, the guys who weren't necessarily on Team Canada who caught your eye. For me, Tim Stützle is definitely one of those guys. I mean, I watched that Germany game and was captivated the entire time. Kyle, he was on the road at the time, driving to Quebec, and I told him, you are going to have to watch this whole game in its entirety at some point just to watch this one player. The Sider kid didn't stick out too much to me, and I think that's just the mold of the player that he is, a stable defenseman who stays put, does his job, makes the right plays. He's not an offensive dynamo, which everyone wants to see. But this Stützle kid, the skill, the poise with the puck, the skating, he's got it all. I don't know much about his character, being the international and everything, but to me, he's right up there. He's the prospect at this point I want to get to know the most of any of these guys more. So give me more him. On Sweden, I didn't hear much about the Raymond and the Holtz stepping up and being good. If anything, it was more talk about Sandin and Hoglander, who are already drafted, who are already with their respective teams, Toronto and Vancouver. What other teams do we have? With Russia, some guy, that defenseman, Zabolba, the Star Wars character, he's getting a lot of play.
Who?
Samolba. You don't remember hearing that name?
Maybe
Zabolba. Like every time they pass it back to D, Gordon Miller would just be like Zabolba. And
I think I remember that.
He's a Philly prospect. He's getting a lot of play right there in the scouting community. Denisenko, he's getting a lot of play. Marchenko, he's getting a lot of play. Romanov had a great tournament, and Habs fans are licking their chops right now.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of love there in Russia for their players. Askarov was a big downer.
We forgot about that.
I think him and Byfield have got to be the big downers there.
Oh yeah.
Askarov looked like he was just twitching the entire time. It was just a weird style that I didn't see from the Hlinka Gretzky. I remember being so impressed then. Now I just watched him, and I was really taken back by just how disappointed I was. So hopefully he can get his game back in check. And then other than that, I think that's about everybody.
Yeah. Askarov looked a little scared out of his wits there.
And then of course, I guess was it Fagamo's finish?
Yeah.
Fagamo led the league and led the tournament in scoring. So that was great to see him, and he had a lot of chemistry. Or was he on Sweden?
I think he was on Finland.
Okay. Yeah, he was on. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, he was on Finland. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I can't quite remember, but I think Finland.
Because I remember him having like chemistry with Sandin. I thought.
Yeah.
He may have been on Sweden. I think that's why Canada never saw him.
Right.
So,
I know there was a good scorer on Finland. I just forget who it was. Yeah,
Kupari got injured early in the tournament. That was the one LA Kings downside, was that he got injured in the pre-tournament games, never got to play. But Fagamo kind of made up for it with Sweden.
Right.
Swedish power play, it was always Fagamo and Sandin on the points, and they would just play tic-tac amongst each other and just really dominated the game. So I was very impressed with that. And that's all my international guys there.
You want to call it a wrap on the World Juniors? Put a bow on
it? One final shutout. I think it's not getting enough play as well is just the elite play of this tournament and the depth of the countries in it. I think Group B, for the first time in a World Junior ever, I watched every group game and was captivated by every single one.
Really?
Just Group B.
Yeah.
Group A was a little more of a lopsided affair, but the Group B games with Germany having Sider and Stutzel, and the Czechs having the home crowd behind them who were jumping and dancing the whole time, and the crazy coach who would go nuts. Like, I love that passion. The Czechs, I mean, they beat Russia. And Russia won the silver medal. I mean,
right.
The parity of the tournament now with these smaller countries developing these players, it's extremely fun to watch. And the fact that Group B was such a toss-up the whole way, Canada could have finished last or first up until the final game. Like, that was amazing.
Yeah.
So for me, just the sheer depth of the tournament, I think is a huge positive, and I think the tournament's only going to get better now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very high quality product they put out there. Even I remember Ray saying, they asked him, Ray, what do you think of what's the speed like out there, especially compared to the NHL? And he goes, guys, it's definitely fast, a little less structured, but definitely fast. So you know what? It's in terms of enjoyability, it's right up there, if not better, in some of these games than watching a regular season NHL game. It's awesome to watch. And definitely exciting. And I think the half ice there, in between the Olympic and the regular NHL, was a great size. Yeah. Sometimes the big ice can get a little bit tiresome, and I think that was a perfect mix. And we'll be in Alberta next year, so we'll have a great.
That ice is going to be in Alberta, or
no? That just the tournament.
Ice will be in Alberta,
normal, yeah. But we'll have a great time there as well.
Of course.
And I think that's it for the World Juniors.
Okay, yeah, that was I'd say that covered it pretty extensively. And with that, we will segue to kind of our next scouting opportunity, and this being more recent, the CHL Top Prospects game, which just took place this past Thursday, January 16th, in lovely Hamilton, Ontario, Canada.
Oh,
Kyle and I made the venture out. It was a last-minute decision to go out up to Hamilton, make the short drive from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And to see this game, because of course it's a great opportunity, because I keep talking about how these guys only come to Kingston so often, and you often have to wait 2 months in between every game to see these guys. In this one game, you could see everybody. Say what you want about the skill on display or how hard they're trying, but I mean this was going to be a good opportunity. So we went about. We saw this game, and what are your takeaways from there, Kyle?
Yeah, the first guy I want to touch on. Well, first of all, the game in general. I think this is where we differ slightly. Is I didn't see it as much as a scouting tool, rather than more like a form of enjoyment. I just think it's hard to judge these guys, playing with guys they haven't played with before. That being said, I think there's something to say on guys who can really click with guys quickly. I think Connor Zary was a guy who we thought that his chemistry with his line mates, Forrester, part of them, that they had played together. They actually don't play together. They just happened to click instantaneously. So he had a really great game. He showed some speed and obviously some chemistry. Some passing ability, and he was all over the ice. He was zipping and diving all over the place. Awesome show by Connor Zary. I think he's a lock for a mid-first rounder. Jeremy Poirier, which I pointed out to Nick before the game, he was a standout. He was paired with Drysdale, and I think they were very obviously the best puck-moving defensemen in the game. They would play pitch and catch to each other, and you could tell no one wanted any part of that. They didn't even want to try to get that puck. He's got a bit of size to him. His skating was great. His hands were great. He had that one snipe goal. Red was a disappointment overall, but he had a good showing there, and I think he's got a pretty good potential if he stops his little bit of immature lapses here and there. Obviously, Laff was very dominant in the fact that when he did have the puck, the game seemed to be in just slow motion. It looked like when he had the puck, he'd make a little move, do a little something, and then obviously things would just slow down, and guys just would not be around him somehow. It was interesting to watch. First time seeing him live, and that was my takeaway from him. And then obviously we touched on Byfield a little bit. First time seeing Marco Rossi live or in a viewing setting. I liked he had a good motor. I liked how hard he was playing his skating. They didn't produce too much, that line, but again, can't really fault him there.
Nicest goal of the game, if you ask. Or actually, there were two nice ones.
He connected
the passing play between him, Perreault, the tic-tac-toe pass right in front to Quinn. Was a beautiful goal.
Yeah, that was a good one. So yeah, he was good. I mean, I liked him more than Perfetti in the game for sure. I think he was all over the puck, especially for Red, who was again disappointing. It was great to see those guys in person, but I'm not taking too much out of it from a scouting standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, I have brief notes here. For me, my most anticipated player to watch was probably Jamie Drysdale, because he suits what I look for in a player, and he seems to personify the qualities I like: a high hockey sense, high skating ability, defenseman who a lot of people compare to Makar. I mean, that's what I wanted to see, and he never made a mistake the whole game. I watched every single decision he made, and the mistake would never be on him. It would always be on somebody else, and that was just really just hard, crisp passes. Breaks it out of his zone when he feels like doing it on his own. Makes the nice, crisp pass out of the zone when he feels like passing it out and doing it by committee. Just very impressed with his hockey sense, and I think he's going to fit like a glove with wherever he goes, despite the size. Perfetti for me was more subtle. Didn't really stick out, as a Rossi, as you just explained, but subtly he'd make a play. He'd make a play off the boards and set up a nice breakout pass. He'd cross the blue line with the puck and kind of slow down the pace in a laugh kind of way, and find a teammate streak into the net. He made subtle plays which showed me, okay, I can see why this guy's projected to go top 10. But at the same time, the whole package, everything taken together, skating, shot, passing, the whole 9 yards. For me, he seemed like a step below the Laughs and the Drysdales and the Rossies, for that matter. Rossi for me, I loved. I just like that style, the compete level. Always, even when he's away from the puck, he just seems aware. He seems aware of his surroundings. Where's the play going next? Hightailing it at both ends of the ice. I heard about his character, and I heard about his just work ethic and just being a hard worker, and that to me, was on full display despite his size. He's a very small guy, often looks hunched over when he's skating, just the way he skates. But I was very impressed, and of course with that goal I mentioned, setting up that beautiful play. It was all set up by him off the boards, winning the puck battle there. So that was great to see. I guess from the guys I didn't know, I was very impressed with, as you said, Poirier and Cormier. I thought it was almost unfair how they were on the same team as Drysdale. Like, clearly the three best D of the game were on the same team, these dynamic D who were just jumping in the play whenever they felt like it. I was just super impressed because I didn't know these guys, never heard of them. And now I'm interested in just going on mocks and seeing where they're headed.
Yeah.
If I have a team in the 20s picking, do I have a shot of getting them? That interests me. It's just fun seeing those guys you didn't know going into this game, and I'm glad I saw them. And then, of course, Caden Gooley, who scored the goal for Team White, their first goal from the point. It was a Perfetti to Gooley setup. This guy was a guy who I watched at the Hlinka Gretzky. He was my second standout defenseman next to Drysdale. Gord Miller basically called him a 6'5" defenseman who skates like the wind. When I heard like that, I was already invested. Just watching him, looks like a Colton Parayko. That's what he's going to be. He just has the size, he has the reach, he can shoot, he can defend, he can play both sides of the ice, and just super impressed with the kid. Just found out he was the number 1 pick in the WHL draft, so clearly a lot of pedigree already there. This isn't just some guy who is a flash who came out of nowhere. So he's a guy who in mocks seems to be going in like the 15s to 20s in the middle of the draft. So that's a storyline for me. Where do these defensemen go after Drysdale? Where do these two offensive guys we saw go? Where does Gooley go? It's the American defenseman who they're saying is the second best defenseman in the draft. His name kind of escapes me right now. But all those things considered, it gets me very excited about the defense class in this draft, which I didn't think much about. I thought this was just a scoring based draft, forward based, and yet here I am almost second guessing myself, saying, "Hey, wait a second, there's some real good steel defensemen in this draft." So super excited from what I saw all around, and I'm just glad I came out of this showcase not only seeing like the guys I wanted to see, like the top guys, but also, of course, the guys who just surprised me, and I think that came from the back end.
Yeah, it's interesting how they structured the rosters, because we talked about Poirier and Drysdale being the number one unit on red. Team White, their number one unit was Gooley and Braden Schneider, two guys known more for their physical play than their offensive play. And they ended up, having the upper hand at the end of the day. Because, we saw some big hits out there. The game had some physicality for sure. But I think all in all, good takeaway there is those guys can play. Don't be scared off by, maybe Caden Gooley doesn't have the best statistics. This guy is going to translate extremely well. And that was great to see. We also saw some big names walking around. We saw Chris Pronger walk right by.
Within the first minute, Chris Pronger walked right by Kyle.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Absolutely. Then we saw some general managers, Pierre Dorion. We followed him on the sidewalk
wearing a
for
backpack
while.
and chirping his fellow execs.
It was funny because you saw Mark Bergevin, or who we thought was Mark Bergevin, walk onto like a team bus. Yeah. That's great. That's what you expect to see. And then you see Pierre Dorion with a fucking Swiss gear backpack. Just
entering the subway.
Entering the subway with his buddies. It was so contrasted. It was hilarious. Yeah. Like big franchised organization in Montreal, and then puny little Ottawa just trying to get by. It was so funny to see.
Yeah, it was just a cool atmosphere of because there's no security. Like they are one in amongst you.
Yes.
Like we just be walking, and John Chaika would just be standing there talking to some rando, like to some family members, and I'd just be like, whoa, like there's nothing right now between me and John Chaika, a NHL GM. So just seeing how intimate this atmosphere was, and seeing all the scouts there, and all the GMs there, all the guys wearing team jackets and stuff out of nowhere. St. Louis, Arizona, the Arizona scouts were at the same bar we were at after the game.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
It's just a small little town, this Hamilton, and you got all these guys coming from all over the
hockey world,
the continent.
Yeah.
And here they are in this little arena enjoying the same game we were. So very, very cool, very tight-knit atmosphere. I know Ontario won't host one again, but I'd definitely go to one again if it's close and if it's convenient.
Yeah. And we had our jerseys on. We had the Jonathan Drouin Montreal and the Drew Doughty LA Kings. So we were aptly prepared.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Hoping to get on camera, but it didn't happen.
We don't know. We didn't watch
not.
the broadcast, right?
Yeah,
so
you're right.
Until I watch the broadcast, which I have every intent of doing, no idea whether that came to fruition. So with that said, we're going to move into our final prospect-based segment here. Kyle's been really excited to get this out. So we're going to try something new here. This is going to be his first attempt at a mock draft. This is mock 1.0 for at least half the Rink Moose family. Me myself, not really prepared at the moment. I have some live games I'll be going to. Cole Perfetti will be visiting the Kingston Frontenacs this coming Friday, so I'll be looking forward to going out to that game. Of course, the 67s will be back in town because that's a big rivalry with Kingston. And I just feel I want to see a little more of these international guys, these Stutzels, and these Swedish kids. So I'm going to wait a little bit, but I'm going to hand the mic over to Kyle, and he's going to give you a Rink Moose first mock draft 1.0.
Nice intro. I'm going to go do a top 15 here. And there's some of these guys I don't know as much about. As with any any scout, you kind of fill in the blanks based on what you've heard and based on where other people have these rankings. Obviously, this isn't my job, so I'm not going to go and watch 15 tape games of Rossi. Sorry. But
I have a life.
Yeah. You know what? Here's what I'll do. I know we're doing other stuff after this. I'll quickly go 1 to 15, maybe give a tiny word on why they're there, and then go from there. And if you want to jump in at any point, feel free.
This is all you.
Feel free. All right, number 1. future Montreal Canadian. Alexis Lafreniere. No explanation really needed. Cemented his spot at the World Juniors. It's clear cut. There's no one that's going to chase him. If he went 0.5 point per game the rest of the fucking year, he'd still go number one. Number two, Quinton Byfield, and his hold on this spot is loosening. He's losing his grip on this spot. It's a fragile spot for him. Obviously, the physical tools, fantastic. The point production statistically is there. It's just when we've seen him play live or on TV, there's a little bit to be desired. So Byfield at number two. Number three, a riser for me, Drysdale. I mean, this three spot, it's a point where if you are a team at number three and you need a defenseman, you happen to have a team need for a defenseman, have no problem jumping on Drysdale. I know there's other big forwards there, and you usually say it in a draft, take the best player, but he's good enough where if you need a defenseman, you can take him here. He's in the echelon of a Byram Quinn Hughes type of player. Skating is off the charts. Smarts, all that kind of thing. When he stepped into the game in the semifinals for Canada, he was dominant. He looked like one of the better players. Very, very impressed. I want to see him with a little bit more size over the coming years, build a little bit of strength, and he'll be NHL ready, and he'll make an impact quickly. Number four, Lucas Raymond. Again, losing his spot a little bit. It's a soft hold. Before the year started, a lot of people would have had Raymond at number two. He was that highly thought of. A lot of people like this guy because he's a very complete player. Skills right up there with the top of the draft, but this guy can go both ways. He is a winger, and he just has all the elements that you'd look for. The one thing about this guy, statistically not too great so far, but he's not getting used a lot. So with the amount of time that he is being used, his time on ice is like 10 minutes a game. He's actually doing really, really well with what he's getting in a men's league, the SHL. So he's doing all right there. I'd like to see a bit more out of him. If not, I can see him slipping. Number five, Tim Stützle, another riser throughout the year. Haven't seen a lot of this guy, but you read a lot of reports, you see a lot of mock drafts, and this guy is rising on everyone's rankings. From what I hear, he's a Patrick Kane type of player. Skills off the charts. Just that dynamic quality. Again, I'd like to get a bit more viewing on him before I give you too much more. But a center / winger, if he can solidify himself as that center guy, you could see him all the way up at number three. Everyone likes a center. So Stützle at 5 for me. Number 6, Marco Rossi. Again, a guy I would not have had this high earlier, but the statistics don't lie. He is on a great Ottawa 67s team, but the numbers he's putting up is unprecedented. And if you get a guy who can put up those stats and have the work ethic that he does, hard to miss on this guy. Really, really great prospect. I like him a lot. I wish he was at least an inch taller. I just want him to be one more inch. Marco Rossi. Number 7, Cole Perfetti. He's cooled off a little bit. He's one of those guys I would have had higher earlier on. Obviously, surging after Hlinka Gretzky. Good statistics, not as much of a goal scorer as he was last year, but he's showing he's got a really good smarts for the game, showing different aspects to us. He's been more of a playmaker this year, which is interesting. Didn't see that coming. And then I saw him at the camp. Wasn't overly impressed with him at the camp. He looked like a young man. He's got some work to do, but from all we've seen, the skill is there. The potential is there. This guy could be a game breaker down the road. I think he just needs a bit more seasoning, but he's got that dynamic quality that teams will really enjoy. Again, center / winger. I think he translates more of a winger in the NHL. If he was a bona fide center, he might be higher on the list. Anton Lundell at number 8. A very complete center. If you want a guy who's going to be a pure two-way centerman, very safe pick, less of a dynamic skill quality to him, but like I said, in the Bergeron type of player where you're not going to put up 80 points, but you'll get 65 and you'll be really responsible in your own end. everyone wants a guy like this. So if you're in need of a center and you want a guy who can just be a really safe pick for you, you don't want to miss, you're under fire from your GM, don't fuck this up, you can't miss with Lundell. And now they're one of those awesome Finnish players. Number 9, Alex Holtz, the second half of the Swedish duo. What I love about Holtz is he's a weapon. He is a weapon in the fact that he's a pure sniper. This guy's a goal scorer. He will be in the NHL. That's fantastic and all, but he's a little bit one-dimensional in the fact that he doesn't do too much else. He's a fair passer, not a great passer. He's a little bit... he might be one of the best scorers in the draft, purely. If that's what you're looking for, great. You've got yourself a scoring winger. But I like my guys a little bit more well-rounded. Number 10, Dylan Holloway. Interesting pick here. I think I have him a little bit higher than some people. Playing in the NCAA this year, I see this guy translating as a centerman. He's going to be a workhorse, probably going to be on your second line down the road, and he's got a great character. He has an old school, old-timey game to him. He likes to get his nose dirty. He grinds, but at the same time, he has that skill. So this is a guy who's going to go down and block shots for you, and then he's going to turn around and be on your power play as well. Again, not at the top end of dynamic skill, but a guy similar to Lundell that you definitely just want on your team for, a lot of the intangibles that you look for. Number 11, Connor Zary. This guy's a riser for me. He's proved in every international tournament that I've watched him at that he can be one of the big boys. He's never been in that top 10 conversation. I have him at 11, and he's just continued to be one of those spark plugs, Brendan Gallagher types with skill, really great motor, and you just like this guy. He's a great player, and he's going to impress you. He's also got a really great point per game clip in the WHL. For a long time, he was actually leading the WHL in scoring. Noel Gunler at number 12, international guy. This guy is like a little bit poor man's Alexander Holtz, absolute sniper. He's got a top 3, maybe top 4 shot in this draft. A lot of people have him a lot lower because he's got, let's not hide from this, he's got character issues from everything I hear. This is one of those guys, he's like a Ryan Merkley, where his skill would put him in the top 10, but he's got a little bit of an attitude problem. And you know what? He's one of those guys you want to be leery of. Be careful with this guy. But at the same time, they said that about Kaliev, and he's looking great with his play so far. So I like Gunler.
Wait, so if I may interject, what's he play? What position he play? What league's he in? What nationality is he? I don't know.
He's Swedish SHL. I think he's a winger, and I think he's got fairly good stats for his usage. Him, Holtz, and Raymond are the 3 guys that are in the men's league SHL this year. So very impressive there, and he's got a wicked shot.
Okay, I'm excited.
Number 3, yeah, you like that whole character thing.
I'm going to be all over this guy now.
Yeah, so number 13, Jeremy Poirier. We saw him at the top prospects game. He's always been making noise as that offensive defenseman. Got some size to him too. Again, the one thing that's keeping him from being such a great top tier prospect is sometimes he's got little, I like to say, French Canadian immature qualities to him.
Love it.
And that just means sometimes he likes to do everything himself, rush the puck up the ice, try to deke 3 guys. You see it a lot in Jonathan Drouin back in his earlier days. He's got a little bit of that. If you iron out those issues, really great skater, really great puck mover. He has a shot to him, as we saw at the prospects game. This guy could be under the radar kind of guy. Number 14, a huge dropper. This guy was like number 2 on Craig's list early in the year. Hendrix Lapierre. All the way down to 14 now. A lot of guys have him fucking out of the first round, if you can believe that. The bad thing about this guy is that he doesn't have a lot of goals. His stats aren't great. His point per game is not great. He has a concussion right now. He's been injured. So all those things mounting up, it doesn't look good for him. But if you look at the positives, he's incredibly smart. If you remember what he did at the Hlinka, he was actually him and Perfetti were like the best players on the team. I don't think that was a mistake that happened. It wasn't bad luck or good luck. This guy's a crazy good player. He's like a Nick Backstrom. He's a pure playmaker, extremely smart. I just hope things can get on the right track for him injury-wise. And I think he's got some new teammates now too. So if he gets those stats up, he'll probably be a first rounder. But right now it's tough. I think talent-wise, he's number 14. Craig still has him as number 9. So Craig's a believer in this guy. Number 15, I had to include him, Yaroslav Askarov.
Nice.
Just because he deserves a mention. Best, quote-unquote, best goalie prospect since Carey Price. It's hard to evaluate goalies, but, I mean, this guy's got a track record and a history to suggest that he deserves the title. We saw him a little bit shaky at the World Juniors, but how many draft-eligible goalies play at this tournament? It's very rare. Good on him for even playing in, his lion's share of the games. And if a team is that desperate for a goalie, it would be hard for me to say take him in this range. But we saw it with Spencer Knight last year, and this guy is apparently better than Spencer Knight, better goalie prospect. So if you do have that need, you can take him here, and that'll round out the top 15.
It's exciting. I mean, just hearing this list is exciting. I mean, the top 10 looks like a top 10 I've just seen if I've happened to look at any mock. But hearing guys like, Gunler and Zari rising all of a sudden, and Poirier, who I just saw, that excites me. The fact that once you get into the teens, there's names I'm invested in, and I can't say that about a draft ever. From top to bottom, I mean, the fact you didn't even mention Gooley, I mean, it's very impressive, and I'm super, like, I can't even contain my excitement for this draft.
I know.
And we have 4 or 5 months to go. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. This is ridiculous.
We're gonna have to get absolutely tossed for the lottery.
Huge.
Lottery.
It's gonna be huge. I cannot wait. Like, I'm gonna have to commute all the way back here to watch that with you.
I know,
because that's not something you can watch on 2 different streams where one's ahead of the other. Like, it's the most time sensitive event ever.
Yeah. And I like how the NHL has turned it into a full feature length project. You have to now watch half an hour.
Yep.
And then you have to watch the numbers go.
Yep. You got to watch the lawyer carry the briefcase.
Yeah.
He's the one man in the world who knows who got the one pick. I always try to read based on his facial expression what it is.
With the security surrounding him and little smirks.
Amazing.
Oh,
it's amazing.
Kudos to
how the GM celebrates.
And they don't, right?
Does he do a fist pump? Does he shake the other guy's hand? I mean, what happens here?
You wish you saw more of that, eh? Like, when you realize you're in the top 3, the guys are just like,
But
good.
This one's big in particular, so
I
I just feel like they're gonna sell you real hard, whoever wins. So
yeah,
super exciting stuff, and I think that caps our coverage here of the draft for this episode. This episode was going to be very draft heavy, of course, with the juniors and the top prospects. And we hope we were informative. And without further ado, we're going to move on to our shotgun segment of the week.
Shotgun.
What the hell's been going on in the National Hockey League? What this podcast is all about.
Right.
So without further ado, I mean, I'm just going to throw out some names there. And as per usual, I'm just going to get your quick thoughts, Kyle, on each of these.
Mm-hmm.
So, just pulling up the list here.
Okay.
I have team-wise. I have the Montreal Canadiens and the signing of Ilya Kovalchuk. I think that's a good point to start. So,
sure.
What do you make as the Habs fan? What do you make of this transaction? Obviously, the Russian of Russian players has signed with your beloved team. How do you feel about this? He is a god now in Montreal. The guy scoring every game. He just stuck it to Marc-Andre Fleury last night and scored against the Golden Knights.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy's on more than a point per game pace. He's manning the power play. He's everything Jonathan Drouin wants to be.
Oh, Come on.
So
why do you have to go there?
So what's this mean for your team? How's this change the perspective of if you're competing or tanking? And how are things going to change when Joe joins the team, I'm sure after the All-Star break? Because that's going to throw a whole wrench into the situation as to who's deployed where. Max Domi's getting benched. What the hell's going on in Montreal?
It's such a firestorm, a shit show, an entanglement of bullshit. It's hard to really sift through the crap. In terms of the Kovalchuk thing, when they signed him, I was like, okay, he's going to plug some injury holes, and then he's probably going to get sent back to the AHL. He's on a 2-way contract, Nick. So this guy, and the famous words of Marc Bergevin, and kudos to this guy, the famous words, he has to play well. This is his last chance. And I'm like, oh, shit. And Ilya Kovalchuk took those words, tucked him into his pocket, and has played incredibly well, a resurgence of sorts. In LA, he was a mess, from what I can tell. I didn't watch much of his games there, but from what I could hear, this guy can't skate.
Couldn't skate, yeah.
This guy can't do anything. He's not the player he used to be. Washed up. And what a guy. He could have just scuttled his way back to the KHL and lived out the rest of his days. But instead, he wanted to make his final mark on the NHL. He came to Montreal, a historic city, and he has been nothing but lights out. And even the games I watched him, he actually looks good. The guy can skate. He can skate. He made a crazy pass the other day. He's scoring just as well as I can remember.
The shot's still there. The game-winning goal against Ottawa. It's vintage Kovalchuk. Vintage.
Crazy stuff. It's been awesome to watch. As a Montreal fan, I have been torn in so many different directions. I feel terrible because obviously a few weeks ago, we had the 8-game losing streak, the second of the year. And I said, great. I just made a mock draft. There's a lot of good players on it. It's a tanking year.
Hendrik Lapierre to Montreal.
Yeah. I have no problem with this team tanking. That's what I said. I said, you know what? Trade away the Tatars, the Petries of the world. Get your draft picks and let's get going here. Kovalchuk comes in. In the last few games, we've had wins. All of a sudden, you look at the standings. They're not too far out. We're getting Jonathan Drouin back. Brendan Gallagher's coming back. Price is looking like Price. And all of a sudden, literally just in the last few days, I'm looking at myself in the mirror and I'm saying, holy shit. Let's get back on the horse. So now I'm giving up my lottery dreams. For now, I'm giving up my lottery dreams and I'm saying, let's go win these games. Mm-hmm. Let's go win these games now. I think they can do it. Jonathan Drouin was having a great season before he got injured. So he'll be back sometime around after the All-Star break. They have a chance. And that's super exciting. I'm getting little vibes of the Ottawa Senators Hamburglar year. I don't think it's quite that vibe, but my biggest fear, Nick, is they come and they finished in just outside of a playoff spot.
It's exactly what's going to happen.
You don't know that.
I mean, you've played more games than any team in the NHL. You're at 50 games played. And the reality is you're 6 points back of that clunk. Carolina, Philly, Colombo, and the Leafs. That's a big clunk that's occupying that final spot. You're 6-7 points out at this point. And I just look at your team, top to bottom. I mean, with the injuries, it hasn't helped, but you're going to need Gallagher back. You're going to need Drouin back. You're going to need Kovalchuk to keep producing at his pace. You're going to need all these things to go right, whereas I don't say that about that other clunk of teams. With that other clunk of teams, they just got to play like the teams they are. Whereas with Montreal, to me, just too much has to go right here. And hell, even Buffalo's ahead of Montreal at the moment. I mean, they got a long way to go, and it's sad because they're going to be right in that clunk. You named it. They're going to be right in that section of teams that doesn't make it, but they're not tanking. They're not with the Ottawas and the Detroits and the LAs and the New Jerseys.
It's a horrible place to be.
It's horrible. It's the worst place to be.
And to speed things up, the trade deadline's mid to late February. Decisions will have to be made before the trade deadline. Are we going for this or are we not?
Yeah.
And all likelihood, Marc Bergevin is going to be in the middle just like we are and saying, I don't want to trade futures and I don't want to trade guys who are helping me right now, so we're going to stand pat, which is like, fuck, boys. So it's tough. Like right now, I'm in win mode because they've shown me a spark. I thought the spark was out, but it's still there, and I can't just give up now. Even though I want to give up, I do. I want them to lose.
My selfish hope is that they give a good run, and they're still in the race 3 weeks from now. I will be at the Bell Center in 3 weeks from now.
Oh, you want it to be a meaningful game.
Saturday night game, Leafs Habs.
That could be a huge standing implications
When I looked at that game 5 months ago when we booked the trip, I told myself this could be a big game. In mid-February, Leafs Habs. I looked at the standings at the time. They were neck and neck the whole way. And over the past month, things have been in shambles. So I'm hoping that game, it's a big deal for both teams. That's like a must-win for Montreal because that's definitely a team you're chasing. And I just hope to God they can stay in it up until then. So that's my selfish hope. And I think with that, we'll segue to the Leafs.
We should.
Which is another subject in itself. I mean, to me, this team had a great stretch when we weren't recording this podcast. They won something like 8 of 9. Sheldon Keefe was a god. They had the standout 7-6 or 7-5 win against Carolina on like a Monday afternoon. Marner scored a goal where he stole the puck at center ice and split the D and went bar down on Reimer. It was like a god moment.
Yeah.
Like it was like this team's good. This team's good. And then over the past couple weeks, I mean, loss like a letting 8 goals against Florida, losing last night to Chicago. Winning a game, losing 2 games. Winning a game, losing 2 games. Freddie Anderson giving up bad goals. Morgan Riley getting injured for 2 months. Jake Muzzin still on the IR. Having to ask Sandin and Liljegren to play top 6 minutes. I mean, to me, things have kind of changed. This is not a given. Joe asked us, what's the percent of the Leafs getting into the playoffs? And I comfortably said 80%, and you said 80% as well. And the wise one, Joe, said only 60%. The biggest Leaf
Joe
fan, he only said 60%.
Yeah,
and I think we're seeing why. There might be some cracks in our theory and more merit to what he said. I mean, it's not a given when you got teams like Tampa winning seemingly every game now. John Cooper has cemented himself back in his comfortable seat as the coach of Tampa. He's not going anywhere.
Oh God, no.
Boston had too good of a stretch at the start of the season, so even with their lapses, they're still ahead.
Yeah.
And Florida just keeps on winning, even without Bobrovsky. So to me, I mean, it's they're out of the playoff spot right now, and it's going to be they only have 30 games left, and that's why this is fun because it's the stretch run. And I want to see what else they can do. And to me, Freddie looks tired. He looks like he can need some rest. They still haven't solved the backup goalie situation. I hope to God they trade for somebody at the deadline. This is fascinating.
Yes. The soap opera teeter-totter game that we're watching with the Leafs, like it's similar to Montreal where, they go on a massive losing streak. Babcock gets fired. For a lot of weeks, they're amazing. This new coach they're scoring left, right, and center. Now we've got some friction on this team, and we thought okay, and then Riley goes down, Muzzin's down, the kids come in, they fuck their opponents there. It was like they don't need them. The kids are great, everything's fine, and now we're back to a point where like holy shit, we're out of a playoff spot. And do we need help on defense? Or are we going to have to plug this hole? Can the kids get this done? Assuming Tampa is Tampa again, which I think they are.
They're back. They're not
back.
going anywhere.
They're battling Florida for the Atlantic spot. I like Florida. I think Florida's a great team.
You hate Florida.
No. I mean, as a roster, as a team, I don't like Florida. I like the Florida Panthers. Yeah. I think they're a great team. Yeah. Huberdeau, Barkov, Trocheck, Ekblad, they're a great team. Now they're battling them for a playoff spot. That's no easy matchup. In the Metro, in the wild card, they're battling Metro teams.
And they're good.
And we're talking Philly being the worst of the bunch. Okay. And then you have Carolina.
And what about the other one? Colombo.
Oh, don't.
Elvis Merzlikins has 3 shutouts in the past 7 days.
Okay.
3 shutouts in the past 7 days. That's like intramural stats.
Relax. I think Columbus is a flash in the pan.
I disagree.
Okay, so if Columbus is somehow legitimate,
This is John Tortorella. He swept the
Oh my
Lightning
God.
last year. The
So-
passionate speech, Kyle. That can do so much.
maybe it is. So if you're saying Columbus is legit, which I'm
But
not
I
sure
think
yet,
Carolina is legit too. But
Carol-
I was
oh.
never on Philly.
I'm saying Philly's legit.
Yeah, you said that from the start of the season. I'm telling you, they're not legit.
Especially when Carter Hart, Philly will be there the whole time. They'll be in that wild. They'll be
Carter
fighting
Hart's
for that
gone
wild
for
card.
3 weeks, so
Yep.
better get ready soon.
So if there's ever a time for Toronto to pounce on a team, it's probably Philly. But what I'm getting at is this is a actual tough battle.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be like gut checked. Like the fun is over in Toronto. Like the last couple weeks, we're having fun. Guys are scoring
Yep.
points. Austin Matthews is doing
Yep,
the shit,
yeah.
hugging Justin Bieber. Cut the
Yeah.
shit. Okay. No more of this
No more
bullshit.
fun.
If you slip up once
Yeah.
and you get caught doing goofy shit
Yeah.
like making TikToks with God knows who, it's like you can blow this
They could.
right to the fucking ceiling, and that would be fun.
And then you can't point at the coach.
And then you
because
can't
you
point
you
at the
already
coach.
made the move, right?
And then you point at what the GM,
the spoiled kids
exactly,
who couldn't produce.
So
and that's Kyle's dream.
the prophecy.
Yeah, is almost full circle.
The prophecy, is
and you
almost
lose your
full-
draft pick. So
You
cheers
lose
to
your
that.
draft pick. You
Right?
lose your
If-
draft. pick.
I believe if they're not top 10 this year, the first round pick, because it's either this year or next year's draft, right? So if like
they'll keep it.
so if they're not top 10, they keep the pick,
If they're not top 10, then Carolina will keep the pick.
right? If they are top 10, then the pick goes next year.
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
very interesting. And
This
they're
is-
not.
I
Yeah,
mean,
they're certainly not in the top 10 now.
This is it's a hilarious and funny and interesting story to watch, and it will be the NHL will the world of hockey will be watching this
yeah.
because it's a fascinating story.
And the numbers speak for themselves. They've lost 5 of their last 6. Like
Yep.
I said, 6 goals against a Blackhawks team.
They've been getting
which is
crushed.
on the outside of the league.
Yes.
8 goals against a Florida team. 4 goals against by a Jack Hughes New Jersey Devils team. 4 goals against Winnipeg. 6 goals against Edmonton. I mean, they're letting in goals like no tomorrow. And they expect to be in a playoff spot. So it's you nailed it. I mean, they're 27th in the league in goals against. It's not a good look.
And really interesting and this might be the biggest part. Sheldon Keefe finally bends. What will he do to respond?
Mm-hmm.
He there's sweat on his brow now, Nick.
He called his team immature after the game last night.
So now he gets to see what Babcock was dealing with. What's his response?
What's his discipline?
What's he gonna do now? Is he gonna be, oh guys, let's have music at practice and let's do skills competitions and let's fuck around and eat ice cream on the bench?
Yeah.
What's gonna happen now? Are we gonna see him crack down, or are we just gonna let the kids run the show? This is gonna be
I think
amazing.
we need to see bad cop Sheldon Keefe soon. I'm sick of seeing him too calm.
I hate this guy.
They'll get lit up. They'll be losing the game 6-1, and the camera will just be on Sheldon Keefe, and he'll just be like, "It's okay, guys. It's okay." Like, I've never seen a guy keep his poise so much when things are, when the shit hits the fan. I've never seen it.
Yeah.
So I need to see more bad cop Sheldon Keefe, and I think that's when it's going to have to take to steer these kids in the right direction. So
Agreed.
we'll see. I stand by my prediction.
80?
I said 80. Well, I can't change it,
I know.
so I got to stick with it. But I still think I still can't imagine a world where they don't get in. It's just mind-boggling to see that.
And I couldn't either. But
But it's foreseeable.
But now-
because Florida's Florida, right? And
Florida's
Tampa's
Florida.
Tampa, and Boston's Boston.
yeah, like I didn't see. Wow, yeah, I didn't see this coming. But
great-
it's
it's a great
amazing how
point.
quickly things change, right? In a few games, Montreal is now quote unquote back in the race. In a few games, Toronto is
Out of a
in
playoff
huge
spot.
trouble.
Yeah, it's great.
Huge
It's great
trouble.
news. It's awesome.
So this is going to be a fantastic finish.
Fantastic, 30 games.
Yep.
So yeah, we'll see what happens. Moving on, we're going to get into some personnel here. Firings. We all love
your
firings.
specialty.
Yeah. The last one, of course, being a specialty of mine, a day I've been waiting a long time for. So
Not that long.
We're gonna start with chronological. We're gonna go Peter Laviolette.
Who is that?
Fired from the Nashville Predators. This one, I guess it kind of surprised me because he was one of the most longest tenured coaches. He was there for a long time. He's had a great coaching career. He had those great years with Philly. And this GM in Nashville, David Poile, he never fires guys. He seldomly fires guys. Apparently, there's only been like 3 coaches that have worked for him in his 20 years in the business. Some crazy stat like that. So, but again, I look at the team and I'm like underachieving. Like this team should be better based on what they are on paper. So,
yeah.
What did you make of this firing? Quickly.
I actually wasn't too surprised. Don't know too much. I haven't researched his history or anything. But you know what? Nashville's one of those teams I thought they would be a really good team this year. They finally got, imagine Poile going out, doing the Duchesne deal, signing him, and going, okay, I got what I needed. I finally got a great centerman to fill in my roster. The defense is still great. Rene is still Rene.
Not really. The goalie's been that's been the issue here, I think, by what I've been reading.
Yeah, which is a little bit surprising, but
old goalie. What is he, like 37 now?
Yeah. All in all, I wasn't surprised because every time I looked at the standings, I was. Mm-hmm. I was like, this is
They're
not
a bottom
right.
10 team.
It has never made sense, and just with the talent they have, I thought the writing was on the wall, and it finally happened, and we'll see what happens now, but. Yeah, Laviolette, I know he's got a long history, but this was due.
I dislike Nashville. I dislike the team. They're not a team I'm excited to watch.
No.
Would you ever flip on a Nashville game?
No. God, no.
Like the Winter Classic this year, Dallas to Nashville. Like, what do I care?
Who the fuck's watching that?
What do I care?
No
I get
one.
you're growing the game in the Southwest, but like this Nashville team, like you get Granlund, you get Duchesne, you trade away Subban. Like I'm not invested in this team. This team doesn't have an identity. That's what it's missing. Like when I think Nashville, I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what to say during this segment because I'm like why do I care? What's your Colorado identity? St. Louis identity? Chicago even has an identity, and they're on the outside looking in. I don't know what Nashville is. So they're like that one team that has to show me something, and then they go out and hire the guy who was just fired from New Jersey. Like New Jersey made the most improvements in the offseason. They were everyone's darling, critical darling. And then they come out of the gates looking like shit and they fire that coach, the alien. And now the alien's hired in Nashville. Like I don't get it. I get relationships. Apparently it's a GM coach thing, like a friendship they have. But like this is a results-oriented business. Hire coaches who've had success, which we'll get into shortly. But the fact you hire this guy who's had no success at the NHL level with a team that was supposed to be good in Jersey, to me is mind-boggling.
Huge, head scratcher for sure. I wasn't aware of that. I didn't follow that too closely. I didn't know
John
it was a New
Hines.
Jersey guy, but that's weird. I don't think they're gonna make the playoffs.
They're gonna be out. I mean.
And that's a massive disappointment. You just got Duchesne. It's just a massive and you might lose Yossi.
Yeah.
Isn't he on a contract year? I mean,
he resigned.
Oh, okay.
I think he resigned.
Yeah.
But I mean, Colorado lock, St. Louis lock, and Dallas of late has started a push. They're about to get into that lock territory, and then Winnipeg. Like I just like Winnipeg more.
Oh yeah,
Winnipeg has an identity.
Yeah,
they don't defend, but they have like all this character up front.
And they've battled through huge adversity this year.
And the goalie's a Vezina Trophy candidate.
Right.
Like, I can't... Like, what's gone on in Nashville? So Yossi's a Norris Trophy candidate. He does that every year. Yeah. But everything else, like, nothing else speaks to me on that team.
Underachievers left, right, and center.
So I'd agree with you. I'd probably have them on the outside looking in right now, which I think we're both surprised by, given we both had them in the playoffs at the start of the year.
Yeah.
Moving on. Speaking of Jersey, Ray Shero has been fired as GM of the Jersey Devils. Best friend of Pierre Maguire's.
Come on.
What did you make of this? Because this is more interesting because it's a GM. When a GM loses his job, it's very different. It happens less frequently. What it tells me is when a GM gets fired, it's almost like you had a vision and it's plummeted, and it's shit.
Yeah.
Like your 5-year vision has gone to shit, and now we're bringing in new personnel. What did you think of this?
Yeah.
Go on.
I don't like this. I don't. I like Ray Shero. He used to be a Pittsburgh Penguins general manager. The problem is with his vision, we all thought it was a great vision as well. All the pundits, all the professionals would, New Jersey, a lot of great improvements. It's not his fault the guy's fucking underachieved and blew it.
And the goalie's letting in goals from everywhere.
Exactly.
Like, he can't control that.
Like, and they were on a rebuild, like, and he seemingly made the team a lot better, and then it just happened to blow up on him for various reasons. Probably reasons we don't even know publicly. That guys just have had off years and such.
Maybe they weren't happy with the Hall deal. Maybe the ownership was like, what the fuck? You didn't get Barrett Hayden? Maybe they watched the World Juniors and were like, what the fuck?
Right, but, I mean, the writing was on the wall. Hall had to go. Maybe he did it too quickly. Maybe it was a little bit rushed. But
should have been like Joe Sakic. Just wait till the very last minute and get the Hall.
Yeah, but, I mean, if you're cutting away on a guy who off that one deal, this just seems undeserved. I think GMs are allowed to like make a little bit of mistakes. I don't even think this one was all that bad. So I think maybe they just looked at his long-term future vision and said, hey, we're not into this. Maybe they want more of a rebuild. Maybe they want to keep going backwards, and he wanted to go forwards. But hey, I think I've liked his drafting. They've got Ty Smith there. Obviously, they won the lottery. That's great. They've got a decent amount of kids coming up, and maybe they just want to keep going with that. So, hey, fuck. I'm sure Ray Shero will get another job sometime. I just don't like this firing.
And yeah, you share the view of Pierre. Pierre basically said, whoever is inheriting this job, whoever is going to be at this desk, which I don't think they formally announced yet, but whoever inherits this job is the luckiest man in the world, he called them.
I don't know.
Because you're inheriting a situation which is a hell of a lot better than the situation Shiro inherited, 4 or 5 years ago. When he inherited this team, like this team was a fiasco. Right, Lou Lamoriello had traded away all their draft picks. He had traded away all their top players or all their prospects to compete when they had that window, before he went to the Leafs, and then he just went over to the Leafs. But when Shiro was there, he had to build it back up. And he did a pretty good job. He didn't trade away his picks. He drafted well. He had the first rounders, the Heischer and the Hugheses. He had the late picks like the Ty Smiths. Say what you want about the Subban deal, but I mean,
who could have predicted?
Yeah, who could have predicted
the
that?
The
fall off, the Lindsey Vonn fall off, the curse of Lindsey Vonn.
Oh God!
I mean, you don't know what's going to happen. So, I think he did if you look at his resume, like it's a decent job. We read the take of the Hall trade when it broke live on our show. We weren't all that tough on him.
Yeah,
with all the conditional picks and stuff. Like, yeah, it's shitty. Like whoever's coming in there, like I kind of agree with Pierre. Like your situation's not all that bad. Like the Halls and the Heischers are only getting, or the Hughes and the Heischers are only going to get better. And I'm sure you have a top pick this year. So shame, sad story, and we'll see what's next in the career of Ray Shiro's, and the long term success of the New Jersey Devils. But with that said, the final topic of the show, the final shotgun here. Gerard Gallant fired, the clown hired. What did you think of this?
Well, obviously not as much as you, but listen.
It's a great story. You don't even have to be invested in this. It's a great story. Objectively speaking, it's a great story.
Without touching too much on the playoff history between the two coaches.
You need to, though.
Oh, you can do that. I'll let you take that. Gallant was a great coach. If you look at all of the underlying statistics, all of the numbers, Vegas has been a great team. They've been struggling in the goaltending department. Again, I don't see this.
Who saw that coming?
I know, yeah. I don't see this team's fortunes this year as being on him as much as anyone else would. He had a 4-game losing streak, and then he was canned. What he's done for this team since day one of their inaugural season has been nothing short of a miracle. And I think this is just a slap in the face. And I think we're getting into an NHL that is way too trigger happy with the firings. They like to see the new coach boost that we all often tend to see. Get a new coach, get a big boost in your win streak, and then things tend to even out and average. And I think the general manager saw the guy, Peter DeBoer, waiting on the sidelines and saying, I really want that guy. I'm going to wait for this, for Gallant to fuck up just a little bit, and then I'm going to can him, which I think is just a gutless move. Gutless. And I think that was why Gallant was victimized here, because the GM had a guy that he liked a little bit better on the sideline, and no one is safe anymore. I don't like that.
You know what quote I think of when I think of the situation?
Lay it on me.
If you can't beat him, join him. Ugh. And in this case, the Vegas Golden Knights could not beat Pete DeBoer, the clown, because he had the last laugh. He won Game 7 of their playoff series last year. The Golden Knights lost. And I think
a crappy bullshit
still happened. We're not going back there. The game that sent Nick to tears ultimately ended Gerard Gallant's tenure with the Vegas Golden Knights. At that moment, the GM, George McPhee, said they got the better coach. And I think this was the moment. He waited for DeBoer to get fired, waited for Gallant to have a little hiccup, and he made the call. And credit Pierre, he brought up some good points. I mean, when George McPhee was the GM of Washington for a very long time, DeBoer was in the Eastern Conference. He was coaching New Jersey for a lot of years. He brought a shitty New Jersey Devils team to the Stanley Cup final. Do you remember that year, Kyle?
Vaguely.
2012, the Devils were in the final against the LA Kings.
Yeah, vaguely.
And that team had no business being there. They had Kovalchuk and nobody else. And then he was also coaching Florida. So he was coaching these Eastern teams, and George McPhee kept seeing this DeBoer guy popping up and saying, whoa, his teams are pretty good. And then Kelly McCrimmon, the assistant GM there in Vegas, he coached a team in the OHL when DeBoer was coaching Kitchener. And DeBoer had a bunch of success with Kitchener. And so it's all these little connections that you wouldn't see from the surface level, like us, like the casual fans wouldn't see this shit. But when Pierre kind of explains it in this way, I kind of see what he's getting at. These guys have scouted this clown for quite some time, and they say, hey, like, this guy gets his shit together. This guy knows how to coach a team, how to get success. So, I mean, how do you not root for this DeBoer guy? He's been to 2 Stanley Cup finals. He took a San Jose team last year to the Western Conference final that had the worst goaltending in the league.
Yeah.
How do you bring a team to the Western Conference final with a 350 GAA? Like, how the hell does that happen?
They beat my team.
What's he do? Like, does he use a hypnosis or something? Like, do lawyers have a way of convincing their players to play in a way? I don't know. But this guy gets it, and that's why I love him. And I think he's going to lead this team to the promised land. This is my Stanley Cup pick as of today.
God.
And I'm cheering for them all the way there. I'm watching all the media scrums. I watched some of the game against Montreal yesterday. I'm just super excited about the situation, and I'm so glad he's back in the business, because I was a little depressed when he was out of the business, when he was out. And it was a great story. He was in Florida with his family at a resort. He got a call from the Vegas GM. And they said, Pete, get up here to Ottawa. We want you to coach the team. It was a great story, and it caught him off guard. Wow. He flew there with no clothes. He had nothing. and he quickly set up and got going. So, wow. A super great story. And if there's one thing I'll say negatively about this, and you won't find me criticizing DeBoer often, it's that I don't really like what he's been saying of late. Let's not get mistaken. This was a big rivalry. This was the biggest rivalry in the NHL. People like you won't want to admit that, but Vegas and San Jose was a big rivalry. And one guy was calling it one guy clown, the other guy was calling the other guy something else. The verbiage between Joe Thornton and Ryan Reeves, like this was a big deal. Evander Kane and Ryan Reeves, this was a big deal. And you'd never find these guys saying something nice about the opposition. And all of a sudden, I'm watching these press conferences with this Pete DeBoer, and he's saying this stuff like, well, I'm just happy to be here. This is a high-character team. You look at the dressing room here. These are high-character guys. Or I like our four-line attack. These guys are great. And he's just sucking off all these players And I'm like, where's this coming from? Like, as a San Jose Sharks fan, I'm like, this was your arch nemesis, and now, like, you've turned coat, and, like, you're boosting all these guys. Like, you're boosting Mark Stone. Like,
You have to.
I guess, but, like, it's kind of a snake move.
It's not. This is his new team. This is his new team for many
But it's
years.
so different.
I know you're not used to it.
I
but
just
that's
don't
how
like.
it is.
I don't like hearing this. He's Mr. San Jose Sharks, and now he's like boosting this team, and like he kept saying, "Oh, I hate playing in Vegas. That arena sucks." And now he's like, "We got the best fans in the business." Yeah. Like, we? No, you just got here 2 days ago, and you're saying
too
we.
invested in this man's life.
It's just stupid.
People,
It's
no one
stupid.
finds this weird except for you.
Yes, on
I guarantee
TSN
it.
they were saying it was like Ray Ferraro was like, "This is kind of weird how this guy was coaching the arch nemesis, and now he's on this team." It's just weird. It's cringy. That's exactly what it is. I'm cringing every moment during this tenure.
For those who are invested in that those two teams, maybe it is.
Yeah, it's really weird. Like,
But
everybody in San Jose, all those Shark Tank fans, they're mind boggled right now.
In my mind, this is exactly what I want him to be saying as a Vegas fan. I want him to say all these things. Tell me what you think of the team. I love the team. Great. Let's go.
I don't like that.
Let's get going here.
I don't like that. But that's a lawyer for you. He'll turn coat whenever he feels like it, and he'll be sneaky.
Yeah.
So there you go. Pete DeBoer's tenure, it's off to a 1-1 start, and we'll see what happens moving forward. But with that said, I think we've covered everything. Kyle, what do you think?
I think we've covered everything.
Okay. With that said, sorry again for the late episode. We got caught up in our hiatus here in all the coverage. But we're happy we're able to get you a quality product here with Kyle's mock and the CHL game and the World Juniors and all the other stuff. So thank you for listening once again. We'll be back in a couple weeks with what I'm sure will be all the fallout from All-Star Weekend. They've been doing some weird stuff like having players shoot pucks from the 500 level. They're going to have a 3-on-3 all-women's game. So, I mean, Kyle's just taken back by all this news. He didn't even know any of this until
I knew the
met.
women's game. I didn't know the standings thing. It's like,
they're having
fuck?
flurries shooting pucks from the 500 level.
That's weird.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to do this. And what crazy bullshit will Pierre be up to this All-Star Weekend? So all that fallout will be provided to us next weekend. I'm sure we'll have the coverage for you guys. And until then, thank you again for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Till next time, Rink Moose is signing off.